All right, thank you for staying with us. Malaria is a mosquito-borne disease that continues to claim millions of lives every year. With 97% of Nigeria's population at risk of malaria, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration Control, that's NAFDAC, has granted registration approval for a malaria vaccine named as R21. According to NAFDAC, this vaccine will prevent clinical malaria in children from 5 months to 36 months of age. The Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, said the country expects to get at least 100,000 doses of the vaccine in donations before making other arrangements with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Now, this makes Nigeria the second country to approve the new malaria vaccine after Ghana. Joining us via Zoom from Abuja is a public health physician and health promotion specialist, Dr. Obinna Ebirim. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Dr. Obinna, can you hear me?
I just heard you now. I wasn't hearing you a few seconds ago.
All right. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure being here today.
Right. Now, the R21 vaccine, we know that Nigeria is towing the line of Ghana. As much as this comes as a ray of hope to a majority of Nigerians, there are still concerns with regards to this vaccine because there are reports that this is coming before market authorization. Talk to us, the process of when we talk about market authorization. What does it mean? Is it something that Nigerians shouldn't be bothered about?
Yeah, so thank you. First of all, I want to say that Nigeria is doing the part of Ghana, but Nigeria is doing a part where she has seen a greater need. As you might be aware, Nigeria has the highest burden of malaria in the whole world, not just Africa or even West Africa, where we share neighbors with borders with Ghana. So if you think of it from the point of view, where is the greatest need of prevention of malaria is in Nigeria, because as I speak to you, before the end of this year, we would have had about over 200,000 deaths from malaria and millions of cases, with Nigeria losing over 600 billion naira yearly in the treatment and prevention of malaria. So the need is there, and introducing a strategy, in this case a vaccine that prevents malaria, is a very cost-effective strategy. It's something that is valuable. Now, talking about the process, before a vaccine is even approved, there are a lot of processes. In the case of NAFDAC, before they gave the provisional approval, there was an independent group of experts, and these are Nigerians, so it's not about foreigners. These are Nigerians who went through the rigor of going through the process and the data and the research that have been done before they then gave an expert advice to NAFDAC. So I want to assure everyone that any vaccine that has been approved for use in Nigeria is very safe, and there have been studies that have been done. I think there is one that was done in Burkina Faso that showed about 70 to 80% efficacy. Efficacy meaning the ability for the vaccine to do what it says it should do. So this is to reassure Nigerians that there's nothing to worry about. And if you recall, in the press statement by the NAFDAC DG, she also mentioned that she calls for what we call the phase 4 clinical trials. Phase 4 clinical trials is a trial that goes on one after the vaccine has been approved, so that you're not just approving and going to bed, but you're approving and you keep testing, so that if in the slightest instance you see that this vaccine is no longer as safe as you saw it to be when you did the earlier studies, then you're going to withdraw it. So I'm happy, I'm excited, because I know that vaccines work. Vaccines have helped eradicate small polio. We're on the verge of eradicating polio from the world. So I'm confident that with the approval given to the malaria vaccine, the end of malaria is in sight, and we all should be excited. Once this vaccine is made available for routine use, people should go out there and get vaccinated so that we can protect ourselves from this scourge called malaria that has been preparing our country, killing a lot of people, and causing a lot of economic hardship to Nigerians.
All right, Dr. Ibrahim, we know that, like you mentioned earlier, Nigeria accounts for about 27% of infection of malaria around the world, and accounts for about 32% of deaths from malaria also around the world, which is a huge burden on the country. So one can imagine and understand the desperation to grasp any solution from anywhere in the world that can stamp out malaria. However, when this is made available, there are still concerns on how people are going to have easy access to the vaccine and also affordability. Talk to us from that window.
So I believe that once this vaccine is available, with support largely from the Nigerian government and also from development partners like Gavi, I think this vaccine would be at a point introduced into the routine immunization schedule. Once a vaccine is in the routine immunization schedule, it would be administered free of charge at public government hospitals. So in terms of the affordability, at that point, the cost is zero to the people and just the cost to the government. And that's also at the point where we need to start thinking of what are the innovative ways we can finance immunization and the vaccine program in Nigeria. So from that point of view, I don't think we need to worry so much about the affordability. But even though we think of it, if it's now made at a cost, I think what we need to do is to balance how much you spend on prevention of malaria or treatment of malaria and also the cost of this vaccine. So I'll give you an example. I'm a medical doctor. Just this year, it's easy to prescribe anti-malaria. So I fell ill of malaria, I think some months ago, and I went to a local pharmacist to get anti-malaria pill. I was surprised that some of these ACTs are now up to 2,000 naira, 1,000 naira, and you have to now buy a paracetamol to go with it and all that. So people, it really opened my eyes to how much people spend on treatment of malaria. And this is just me going once. There are some people who, before the 12-month period, have treated malaria twice or thrice. And this does not include how much you spend if you want to go and buy a mosquito net, or even though it's given free of charge, or maybe you have to buy some of these sprays, anti-mosquito insecticide sprays. So the truth is that Nigerians spend a whole lot of money. An average family in Nigeria.
Okay. We need to quickly go on a commercial break, Dr. Ibrahim. When we return, we'll continue the conversation. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were talking about Nigeria getting about 100,000 doses of the R21 vaccine, malaria vaccine, and we had on the line Dr. Obinna Ibrahim, who joins us from our Abuja studio. And Dr. Ibrahim, before we went on the break, you were talking to us about accessibility and affordability. Now, I'd like for us to look at the matter of our disposition towards vaccines, talking about vaccine hesitancy and even vaccine rejection. We recall what happened during the high point of COVID-19, where a lot of persons were resisting vaccines. There is also that concern with regards to this malaria vaccine. How do we deal with that?
So I think it's we need to continue engaging the people. It is natural that once a new innovation, a new drug comes, people would be scared, people will refuse. But with proper community engagement, we saw it with polio vaccines. But what we did as immunization experts and advocates is that we engage community leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders, and we also ensure that we spoke in a voice that the people understand. If we mean speaking in their languages, using town criers, breaking down the messages in a way that they will understand, and also even taking people on tours and all that. So those are the things we did. And with the malaria vaccines, we will also continue to speak to the people, show them the data that shows that this vaccine is safe, make them understand the value, what they would gain, how much they would save, how much life that would be prevented. So I think that by speaking to people in a language they understand, by engaging their leaders, influencers in the community, gradually they will begin to understand and appreciate the value of the vaccines. And just to tell everyone here again, these vaccines are very safe and they would bring about a lot of value to us, prevent a lot of death, and save families a lot of cost.
All right, doctor. Well, this vaccine is meant to prevent malaria. However, it is not meant to kill the mosquitoes. So it means we're still going to have the mosquitoes around doing their own activity of biting people from place to place. Now, talk to us from the prism of mutation. We have seen at the COVID era where there were mutations here and there due to the activities and, of the virus. Now, speak to us the concerns you have from that area, because the mosquitoes will still be here with us.
Yes, so it's important to note that there are cases where vaccines, you produce a vaccine and then there will be mutations, and then you might need to then produce another, maybe a different variant to, as we saw in COVID-19, and maybe the flu virus that every year we have to now try to ensure that the vaccines are the ones that deal with that variant. So, yes, that's a concern, but it's not a major concern at the moment. In addition to the RO21, there are other types of vaccines, malaria vaccines, that are also under trial to deal with various stages of the malaria infection, the pre-erythrophytic stage, the various stages of the cycle. So it's not really a concern now, but I also want to tell the public, because this is an opportunity to enlighten the public, that in public health, we don't just look at one strategy. It's a combination of strategies. So yes, while we go out to get these vaccines, once it's made available to the public, we also need to keep our environment clean. We shouldn't say because we are getting vaccinated, we will leave stagnant water around our home. We are no longer using mosquito bed nets. We are not trying to prevent breeding of mosquitoes around where we live. So it's more of a combined strategy. It's a multiple strategy that works, right? So this is to encourage people, as you get vaccinated, please continue to ensure that you carry out some of the preventive strategies. Just like COVID-19, while we got vaccinated, that does not mean that we will not continue washing our hands. We will not continue using our Flex Able to cough. We need to practice some of those healthy hygienes and practices while also getting vaccinated, because it's a combination of all this that will ensure complete eradication of malaria.
Now, Dr. Ibrahim, the others were saying perhaps this time we should start looking at homegrown solutions. Yes, we are receiving our 21 vaccine, but isn't it high time for us to begin to look inwards to addressing this matter, knowing that we have the highest burden when it comes to malaria?
So yes, I think that's why at the moment there's currently ongoing discussion about local vaccine production, regional vaccine production, and this is something that I also am happy about, because we spend a lot of funds trying to get these vaccines, and it's not just about buying them off the shelf. You need to make sure they are transported at the right temperature. So even that whole process costs a lot of money. Right? So if we produce locally or even in the region, that helps cut the cost of transportation. And also, if we produce inwards locally, we don't have to then spend the foreign currency we need to use, and that will help our economy. So there's a lot of value in local vaccine production. I'm happy that the government of Nigeria are currently pursuing that. We have support from various financial institutions, both in Africa and globally. So that's the right way to go. I will encourage the government to continue, but we also need to ensure that the right standards are followed. We cannot afford to fall below the bar in terms of the quality of vaccines that are produced, because as you know, vaccines are preventive. In the past, not present, I thanks to NAFDAC, we've stopped some of them. In the past, we had cases where we had drugs that were substandard. Thanks to NAFDAC, we are now cleaning up that mess. Well, in the case of vaccines, we cannot.
Dr. Obinna Ibrahim talking to us about the R21 vaccine. Above all, looking for homegrown solutions will be the way to go at the end of the day, because he mentioned that the amounts we're spending, having to ensure that we maintain a certain temperature to bringing these vaccines into the country. But when we use our own homegrown solutions, looking at our peculiarities and all of it, it will be cheaper for us at the end of the day. It will be,
and we encourage the government to invest more in medical research, because they will be able to come up with a lot of those.
Right. Dr. Obinna Ebirim, public health physician and health promotion specialist, we must thank you for your time on the program.
You're welcome, and thanks for giving me a platform to enlighten Nigerians. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome.